Hi there, Leith Anderson upstairs at Correct to Compete at the Indy Putting Lab in Zionsville, Indiana. And welcome to everybody to tune in on our video. Today we're introducing the new Indy Putting Lab, and I'm introducing my partner on this whole venture that we've been on this mission for 9 months, Biv Wadden.
Well, welcome everyone. My name's Biv Wadden, and I'm a Class A PGA teaching professional in the western and northern suburbs of Chicago. And for the last 9 months, I've been working alongside Leith as we have tried to build out what we consider to be the most extensive putting instruction protocol that's really ever been put together.
Yeah, really it all comes from the belief that the easiest way to get better at golf and shoot lower scores is to be a better putter. Something that we call it the low-hanging fruit, something that you can do without excessive work, just a little bit of work, but it's not something that we just started 9 months ago. This is something that really started 10 years ago for me. And I've been into putting analytics based on the Science in Motion Putt Lab. This is the gold standard for analyzing a putting stroke. And what it does is by putting a sensor on your putter, it can tell your setup, it can tell your aim, it can tell your impact position, it can tell your stroke path, your shape of the stroke, the rotation, and your tempo and timing. And that's the way that we evaluate and analyze a stroke for starters, is how close do you come to professional standards. And the Putt Lab compares everything that you do to a
database of 150 tour players. So there's kind of an internal judge that's judging you versus tour quality putting.
Yeah, you get a really good example of what should be a reasonable level of performance. And so that was the Putt Lab. And it's been, like I said, it's been great for all this time. It's been out since 2005. But unfortunately, with the new technology coming out and more emphasis on putting, we just felt like maybe it's just not enough. So we decided to go out and acquire every single technology available for putting, analysis, and training available today. And so the second one we added was this little guy down here. It's called the Quintec. Now the Quintec is different. Where the Putt Lab is showing what happens to the putter, the Quintec shows contact between the ball between the putter and the ball. And so what that does is it's like a launch monitor for your putter. And what it tells us, it gives us the ability to detect the difference in, say, the type of ball you use or the type of insert that's on the face of your putter.
And how that impacts the skid phase of the ball post-impact, and how soon that ball goes into what's known as pure roll and gets rolling.
So this is a way that we can really tell how you're making that ball roll, which is crucially important. Now, it should be, we should mention that this is really a laboratory device, and there are very few of them in private hands. We're the only one in Indiana. Practically all of the other ones belong to Ping and TaylorMade and Titleist, where they're in all of the laboratories. And so this is really a laboratory research quality device. So we've got that, and it's been fabulous. And if you really want to know what your putter is doing, when you get down to fine-tuning your putter selection, this is really the way.
And tell everybody how much that costs.
Well, that's just $10,000.
These devices are typically out of the reach of normal golfers, but we've gone and accumulated them, and we're going to talk about some others that are within reach in a little bit.
We can mention this new one over here, the Capto. This is like an international selection. The Capto comes from Italy. The Putt Lab comes from Germany, the Quintec comes from UK, and so it's really a worldwide, sourcing. But the Capto is interesting because it does a lot of the things that the Putt Lab does, but only costs $2,300, and it works outdoors. And it does some things that the Putt Lab doesn't do. So we're starting to pick up the ability to use the Capto in a training and in coaching environment that actually is good.
And they've made some very rapid improvements in their internal, in the quality of their internal diagnostics. And so our confidence level is coming on very, very fast that the statistics that it's measuring are extremely accurate.
Yeah, and we'll explain in a minute, how we know that the Capto and the Putt Lab agree on practically everything, which is unusual because one of the things that we've learned is that you don't always get perfect information from every one of these devices.
No, you don't.
And as Biv mentioned, there's this issue of cost. Now there's a new device out there. This is called an inertial motion sensor. This is one example.
It's a whole new category of putting diagnostic.
Whole new category. These are tiny devices, little solid state devices that you put on your putter, and they can mimic in a lot of ways exactly what we're measuring with the other devices. So instead of spending $10,000 for a putt lab, you can spend $150 for a SkyPro. And the big thing about the SkyPro is that it lets you, or the other ones that we have, depending on what it is we're working on, what skill it is, we might want to try blast motion, we might want to try biomech. But what this lets you do is, this is the big thing, is it lets you take your training home. So you don't have to come and work with radar behind you, only where you have an expensive radar unit. So it's really an important thing. And it's kind of the innovation behind what we're doing when we call the 30 Putts in 30 Days program. It all depends on you being able to do some work every day on your putting stroke, and more important than that, to get feedback every time you do any training.
Right. That's right.
So we've got those. Now there's one more element that kind of came into play, and that's as we tried to figure out which one of these devices worked the best, we found that we can't really test with human beings because human beings are too inconsistent.
Too variable and too inconsistent.
So Biv went to his workshop, and if you can imagine what happened, built a robot. And the important thing about this robot is it's scientific grade. It measures everything within inside of half a degree, and when we put double sensors on that shaft, we can actually tell you which one is working better.
Yes, we can. Let's come over and take a look at Stan, our putting robot. So Leith, we knew we needed a putting robot, and this was designed to mimic human proportions as best I could. You'll see that the length of the limbs and the angles that the robot's set at are very realistic. There's a number of important degrees of freedom that I built into this. The first is this, kind of back rotation angle. This can be set anywhere from 0 degrees, all the way up to 90. I've also got variable shoulder and elbow joints that can be adjusted with these clamps. I can also with those elbow and shoulder joints, I can change the angle of the forearms to create different path biases in the stroke. Right now, the robot is set to neutral proportions overall. The shaft is perpendicular to the rotation axis, and this putter will hit, for the most part, perfect putts every time, and the only time you're going to see this robot miss a putt is if it's not really hit the right speed. And that was too short. Anyway, this gives us the ability to put multiple devices on the shaft at a single time and record measurements from a single stroke across different devices. So
you would say that this is really, in your honest and humble opinion, the most advanced, most adjustable robot in the world today? Well,
to the best of my knowledge, I have not seen robot configurations that really have the adjustability of the shoulders and the elbows the way I do. The only degree of freedom I don't have is to be able to vary the shoulders this way, but I can do that a little bit by twisting the forearms.
So that's an amazing device, and so what that does is it gives us the opportunity to make some judgments about how a player should stand in real life.
Right, and one of the things that we ran into along the way as we were adjusting the rotation axis to different angles other than perpendicular to the shaft was that we knew that when the shaft was set perpendicular to the rotation axis, that there would be a normal amount of head arcing and that the shaft would be moving straight back and straight through in an inclined plane, very much similar to this plane board right here. And what we didn't know is when we changed the angle and made it non-perpendicular to that shaft, that we would introduce what's known as shaft arcing, where the shaft wants to also arc as well as the putter head. So if I set this angle here very steep relative to the 71-degree lie angle, that shaft will actually it'll arc. And it's not just the head arcing, but the shaft will arc too.
So that introduces inconsistency into the stroke, which
Correct.
is what we want to get out
Correct.
of it.
And we noticed in our path traces on Sam Putt Lab that some students would show up with a lot of arcing in their path, and some would show up just like throwing straight lines. And that was a mystery to us until we built this and teased out this horizontal shaft arcing, which can have a significant effect on the path. And Capto, the device from Italy, has a new feature in it that is actually able to tease out this rotation axis and kind of help us figure out whether or not a given student is going to be prone to any excessive horizontal arcing or not.
That gives us the ability to make better recommendations for setup, position, and alignment for players.
Correct.
Based on scientific precision.
Correct. That's right.
And that's good. So anyway, this is Stan. He went to Stanford, and so we invite you to come in and meet Stan. Come in and get your stroke analyzed.
And experience the full range of the technology that we have to bring to bear on your putting stroke.
And then let's see if you actually want to get better. So come see us at the Indy Putting Lab upstairs at Correct to Compete.
Look forward to seeing you.